It was a humid August morning in Meridian, Mississippi, when Elijah Price opened his uncle's old bedroom closet and found the same red Converse sneakers still lined up perfectly by the door, untouched for 20 years. They said Uncle Darnell ran off. But if he ran, why didn't he take his shoes? 19-year-old Elijah Price returns to his family's hometown for the summer after dropping out of college. When he stumbles upon old belongings in his missing uncle's room, items left suspiciously undisturbed for decades, he becomes obsessed with solving the case everyone seems eager to forget. The deeper Elijah digs into his uncle's disappearance, the more he unearths about corrupt cops, land disputes, and a local mayoral candidate with ties to a cover-up. What was written off as a runaway case may actually be a murder buried under years of silence, and someone in town still doesn't want the truth found. Before we uncover today's case, a quick reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a single clue, twist, or breakthrough in the stories to come. Now, let's dive into the case. The summer heat didn't care about old ghosts. Cicadas screamed in the trees like they were warning him. Elijah Price stepped out of his borrowed Toyota, the gravel crunching under his sneakers, and stared up at the house his mother once swore she'd never return to. A creaking shotgun-style home, all peeling paint and slanted porch, stood crooked beneath a sagging magnolia tree that had dropped petals like confetti after a funeral. It was Darnell Price's house now, or at least it had been until he vanished in 2004. Elijah wiped sweat from his brow and unlocked the front door with the key his grandmother left him. She passed a month ago, left the place to Elijah's mama, who wanted no part of it, so now it was his for the summer. Dust and silence greeted him. The furniture inside looked frozen in time. Floral couch from another decade, glass candy dish still full of rock-hard butterscotch, a crooked family photo on the wall. He looked at the photo and found him the young man in the middle with the mischievous eyes and dimpled grin. Uncle D, Elijah whispered. That was the uncle they said ran off in the night. Left his mama heartbroken. Left the town whispering. Left his shoes, his wallet, and every photo untouched. For 20 years, nobody moved a thing in Darnell's bedroom. Elijah cracked open the door. It was cooler inside, oddly still, like stepping into a tomb. The bed was made. A wooden dresser stood sharp in the corner, holding up an old flip phone, cracked but charged, as if someone expected a call. A stack of CDs Erykah Badu, Mos Def, and Outkast leaned by the window. And there they were, right by the closet. Red Converse sneakers, size 11, double knotted. Elijah's chest tightened. Why would he leave without his shoes? He crouched and touched the laces. No dust on the toes. Just old polish, cracked rubber, the faintest trace of grass on the sole. Suddenly, a door slammed in the back of the house. Elijah jolted up, heart racing. "Hello?" he called. "Aunt Vera?" Silence. He walked down the hallway and opened the back door. Nothing. No one. Just the heavy summer heat pressing against his skin. When he returned to the bedroom, something on the closet floor caught his eye. A yellowed envelope beneath the shoes. It had his name on it. E. Price, for when you're old enough to stop believing bullshit. Elijah slowly picked it up, his fingers trembling. He peeled the flap open. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed Uncle Darnell smiling, holding up a fishing rod on a dock, next to a white man in uniform Meridian Police Department, badge number visible. Scrawled on the back. He knew, and he made it disappear. Elijah sat down hard on the bed. A whisper of dread ran through him. He hadn't even been in Meridian 24 hours, and already the story wasn't adding up. Elijah stared at the Polaroid so long his eyes began to blur. The badge number was clear. The man standing beside Uncle Darnell had a thick mustache, pale skin leathery from sun, and a grin too smug for a fishing trip. On the back of the photo, those words repeated in his mind like a warning bell. He knew, and he made it disappear. Elijah pulled out his phone and snapped a picture of the badge. Then he zoomed in, enhancing the photo as best he could. 4,728. That was a start. He placed the photo back in the envelope and tucked it inside his backpack. Then, slowly, he stood. The house felt colder now. Not because the AC worked, it didn't, but because something had shifted. This wasn't just a family mystery anymore. This was a message, and someone wanted him to read it. By noon, Elijah had made his way to the only place in town that had semi-decent Wi-Fi and cold air, Big Mama Ruby's Soul Kitchen. He sat at a table near the window with sweet tea sweating onto a napkin and his laptop open. A Google search for Meridian Police Department badge 4,728 gave him almost nothing. Most police personnel records were locked down tight or filtered through press releases. But then he thought back to the year on the photo, 2004. So he refined the search. Meridian PD Chief 2004. The top result was an old news article archived by the Meridian Times-Courier. Sheriff Marlon Keeney retires after 27 years. August 12, 2005. Elijah's stomach dropped. The man in the photo. The same face. A little younger, but unmistakable. Keeney had been praised for his tough-love approach to crime, crackdowns on drug corridors, and preserving order during community unrest, which, Elijah knew, was white Mississippi code for harassing black boys on the wrong side of town. Elijah's mother used to spit when she said that man's name, called him the devil in a badge. So what the hell was Uncle Darnell doing, smiling next to him on a dock? Elijah scrolled further. That same article quoted Marlon Keeney saying, "I leave behind a department that stands for truth. And for those who don't like the truth, well, stay out the water." Something about that stuck in Elijah's ribs. He slammed the laptop shut. Back at the house, the floorboards moaned under his feet like they were warning him not to go snooping. But he did anyway. He went straight to the closet. This time, he dug deeper, reaching behind the dusty hanging shirts, the folded jeans, and finally the floorboards. One corner felt loose. He wedged his fingers underneath and lifted. A hollow beneath. Wrapped in a black T-shirt was a VHS tape with one word written in Sharpie on the spine. DOCK? There it was again. The doc, the photo, the message. No label, no date. Just that one word. But Elijah had a problem. Nobody used VCRS anymore. He biked across town, using his uncle's rusted mountain bike, the tires half flat, the pedals squeaking like a mouse on every turn. He pedaled through the old part of town past the rusting laundromat, the funeral home where his grandma had her final service, and finally down a narrow road that led to the one man who might still live in the 90s. Mr. Ronnie Lightfoot, owner of Ronnie's Rentals and Repairs, who fixed everything from lawnmowers to VCRS, and was rumored to keep a television older than most people in town. Elijah chained the bike outside and stepped in. The shop smelled like motor oil and melted rubber. Fans whirred in the corners, and Ronnie sat hunched over a desk covered in remote controls. Elijah Price? Ronnie looked up. His gray beard was thick, and his glasses sat low on his nose. "You Darnell's boy?" "Nephew." Ronnie set down his screwdriver. "That whole family got ghosts on them. I need to play a tape." Ronnie raised a brow. "VHS?" Elijah pulled it from his backpack. Ronnie squinted. "You sure about this?" "No," Elijah said, "but I gotta see it." The VCR whirred to life like a beast waking from hibernation. Ronnie slid the tape in. Grainy footage appeared. First static, then water, trees, a dock. The image jumped a little, but then settled. The timestamp in the corner read, July 23rd, 2004. The camera was handheld, shaky. It focused on Darnell wearing a denim jacket, arms crossed, standing on the dock with someone just out of frame. Voices started to come through. Darnell, I know what I saw. I ain't gonna let you pin it on Marcus. Another voice, cold, sharp. Sheriff Marlon Keeney. You need to be careful, son. Saying things like that gets you tossed in the river. Darnell. Then toss me. The screen glitched. The tape stopped. Ejected itself. Ronnie and Elijah stared at each other. Elijah's throat was dry. He knew something, Ronnie whispered. That boy was a fool, but he wasn't a liar. Elijah stood, his legs shaky. He had come to Meridian to get away from life. Instead, he had just cracked open a coffin that someone had nailed shut 2 decades ago, and the body might still be missing. The walk back from Ronnie Lightfoot's repair shop felt heavier with every step. Elijah couldn't shake the voice from that tape, Uncle. Darnell's voice. Clear, defiant, angry. The kind of anger that wasn't loud just to be heard. It was loud because it had already tried every other way. I know what I saw. I ain't gonna let you pin it on Marcus. Who was Marcus? And why would the sheriff threaten to kill a man over whatever it was? The cicadas were screaming again. Maybe they never stopped. Maybe they'd been screaming since 2004. When Elijah got back to the house, he didn't go inside right away. He sat on the front steps, head in his hands, watching a gray pickup roll past slowly, and pause at the stop sign longer than necessary. The window was tinted. Driver never looked over. He watched it until it turned down Willow Creek Road and vanished. That's when he pulled out his phone and started typing. Marcus plus Darnell Price plus Meridian plus 2004. The first few results were dead ends Facebook posts, high school rosters, an old gospel choir album. But then, Meridian man acquitted in 2004 drug case after key witness disappears. Archived from the Jackson Free Press, August 10, 2004. Elijah clicked. The article was short. Marcus Tillman, 22, was acquitted of felony drug possession charges today after the state's key witness, Darnell Price, failed to appear in court. Authorities say Price was last seen 2 days before the scheduled trial date. Law enforcement stated there is no foul play suspected at this time. No foul play? They called that no foul play? Elijah felt his blood rise. Darnell was supposed to testify. Against Marcus? Or for him? Elijah called the Jackson County Courthouse. Got transferred twice. Finally landed on a receptionist with a thick drawl and a keyboard older than she sounded. Hi, yes, I'm trying to get information on a 2004 court case. Marcus Tillman versus the state of Mississippi. She paused. That name rings a bell. He waited. You family? Kinda, Elijah said. It's connected to my uncle's disappearance. The woman went quiet. Hold, please. When she came back, her tone had shifted. You sure you want this baby? What do you mean? There was a sealed motion on that case. Somebody paid to scrub a lot of it. Witness list gone. Officer notes? Gone. I can send you the docket number, but you won't get much unless you dig in person. I will, Elijah said. She hesitated, then sighed. I'll email you what I got. That night, the dreams came. He saw the dock again, but it wasn't from the tape. It was deeper, like he was in the water now. Looking up through murky green, reeds brushing past his face, something heavy pulling him down. A splash overhead. Boots. A scream. Then darkness. He woke up soaked in sweat, the box fan humming on low, the curtains fluttering just slightly, like someone had opened a window and closed it again. He grabbed the back beside the dresser-rolled wood, cracked grip, took a breath, walked the whole house. No one was there. But in the kitchen, the back door was unlocked. He always locked it. Right there, beside the sink, was something he hadn't seen before. A small slip of paper, folded twice. He opened it carefully. Go back to Jackson. Ask about Officer Wynne. No signature. No handwriting he recognized. He grabbed his phone. No texts, no alerts. No signs of entry. But the message was real. And he knew the name now, Officer Wynne. He turned it over. On the back, in smaller writing. The water didn't keep the secret. Look again. Elijah looked up slowly toward the window. Toward the backyard. Toward the trees where the old fishing creek used to run through. He didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, he headed to the creek. It was mostly dried up now, just a trickle running through cracked mud and algae patches. But there was still water in one deeper section where the shadows collected. He stood there, staring into it, waiting. Then he noticed something glinting beneath the surface, just a few feet from where the reeds parted like a crooked smile. He stepped into the muck, slipped once, waded in, bent down, pulled. It was a rusted license plate, Mississippi tag, half buried in silt. The numbers were faded, but he could still make them out. 4TG9N2. He dragged it back up to the house, rinsed it in the sink, snapped a picture. Then he called the only cousin who had any connections to DMV records. Kenji, former tow truck driver, now working security for a car auction yard. Grew up idolizing Darnell. Yo, Kenji, it's Lee. I need a favor. I got a plate number. Can you find who it belonged to in 2004? Kenji snorted. What kind of Scooby-Doo ** T you on? I'm serious, bro. Kenji paused. Send it. He did. 30 minutes later, Kenji texted back. Holy * T. Belonged to a silver Ford Explorer. Registered to Officer James Wynne. Elijah dropped the phone. The water really didn't keep the secret. And now someone in the Meridian PD, maybe more than one, had something to answer for. The plate sat on the kitchen table like a corpse nobody wanted to claim. Officer James Wynne, the name from the note. The man who used to patrol the east side back when Darnell went missing. Elijah remembered his grandmother saying Wynne once raided the same house 3 times in 1 week, just to make a point. That point usually ended with somebody's son in cuffs. Now Wynne's license plate had been pulled from a creek bed behind Darnell's house. The same creek the cops never searched. The same creek that, 20 years later, just whispered its first secret. Jackson County Courthouse smelled like old paper and lemon wax. Elijah walked in alone, dressed in a wrinkled polo and jeans, carrying a folder marked evidence in his backpack, like it might burn a hole through the seams. The clerk at records looked up and gave him that polite southern stare, half curious, half cautious. I'm here to see sealed records from a 2004 case. Marcus Tillman versus the state. Court order? Just truth, Elijah said, then reached into his backpack. He laid down the photo of Darnell with Sheriff Keeney, a digital scan of the VHS recording, the creek-soaked plate registered to Officer Wynne, and finally the email thread from the courthouse receptionist that confirmed files had been wiped. The woman read the name again. Tillman. I remember that trial. Or lack of one. I need to know why they made him disappear, Elijah said, voice flat. He wasn't a junkie. He didn't run. My uncle was going to testify for Marcus, not against him. He was about to expose a dirty deal between local cops and a planted evidence ring. The woman's lips pressed tight. Then she stood and disappeared into the back. 15 minutes later, she came back. "There's someone you need to talk to," she said quietly. "She don't work here no more, but she might talk to you." Retired Judge Edwina Harper lived in a white clapboard house at the edge of a cemetery. She answered the door in a church dress and orthopedic slippers. "Elijah Price, you're late," she said before he could even speak. "Come in." He blinked. "You were expecting me?" She gave him a look. "I've been expecting somebody for 20 years. Inside, the air smelled like rose water and warm cornbread. The judge poured them both sweet tea and set a manila folder on the coffee table between them. "I'm breaking the law by showing you this," she said. "But the law broke itself a long time ago." Elijah opened the folder. Photos, witness statements, internal memos, and one document that froze his breath. A police report dated July 22, 2004, filed by Officer James Wynn. Narrative: during routine traffic stop, suspect Darnell Price fled on foot. Pursued subject into wooded creek area. Lost visual contact. No further search necessary, but there was no arrest. No follow-up, because Darnell never came back. The judge spoke slowly. Darnell knew Officer Wynn and Sheriff Keeney had been planting narcotics in cars owned by low-income black residents. He gathered names, times, locations. He was going to testify to the DEA. That's why he met with Marcus on the dock, to warn him he was being framed. Elijah's jaw clenched. So they killed him. Worse, the judge said. They disappeared him. Threw him in that creek like a bag of trash. And the sheriff sealed the files under officer protection protocol. I tried to intervene. I was shut down by people higher than me. Why now? Elijah asked, throat dry. Why let me see this? She sipped her tea. Because you showed up. Because your uncle left a trail, and you were the only one who cared enough to follow it. And because truth, baby, truth don't sink. 3 weeks later, the headlines spread like fire. Murder cover-up alleged in 2004 disappearance. Retired Sheriff Marlon Keeney under federal investigation. Body recovered from creek, confirmed to be Darnell Price. They found him behind a cluster of rocks beneath the old dock. Time had preserved enough bone for a positive ID. And a cracked skull that proved what really happened. Officer Wynn resigned before the story broke. Fled the state. Was picked up 2 nights later in Arkansas, trying to board a Greyhound with a fake ID. Sheriff Keeney never made it out of Meridian. His last public words were shouted from a porch as U.S. Marshals led him away. I was protecting this town from itself. Nobody believed him. The funeral was quiet, just family, and a few neighbors who always suspected. Elijah gave the eulogy. He was a son, a brother, a man who tried to do right in a town that refused to see right from wrong. Afterward, he stood at the creek. He stared at the water. It wasn't screaming anymore, just whispering now. And this time, it told the truth. If you felt something watching this, don't scroll past it, because the next case is like this. It's already on its way, somewhere. And the silence around it is already forming. This story wasn't about trauma. It was about reality. About broken systems, blind spots, and decisions made too late. You don't need to be a detective to see the pattern. You just need to pay attention. So before it happens again, speak up. Ask the uncomfortable questions. Push for accountability. Don't wait for the cuffs or the body count. Your voice matters more than you know. Like, share, comment. Be part of the reason it doesn't happen again.